it was really a small cash flow goal because I just said, okay, I want to be able to work. I was working in Mission and whatever country I want to go live and work in and not have to worry about a salary. And the way to get to that was basically real estate, providing, multifamily cash flowing properties.
This is the Multifamily Journey Podcast, show 26.
You're listening to the Multifamily Journey Podcast. In this show, you'll hear industry experts share tips of success and failure from their real estate investing journeys. You'll get a transparent look behind the curtain while you learn to fulfill the lifestyle you want to live and achieve your wealth goals. Get ready for the journey to financial freedom through investing in multifamily real estate. Here's your host, Blake Dailey.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Multifamily Journey Podcast. It's another great day for another great show, but isn't it always? Man, I'm super excited for today's show. Had David Grabiner on the show today, otherwise known as the DIY Landlord. Don't forget the underscore. He got me on that on the show. That's his Instagram handle and where he's found a following on Instagram, putting out really good content, sharing how he's managing now, I think like 200 units or something like that. He's got a really big portfolio. He's built it pretty much all in-house, hasn't syndicated yet, but has taken on JV partners and just rolled his own profits back into the business and just shares really cool stuff. He started out as a missionary and bought his first properties outside of the country while he was actually in Africa on his missionary trip. So that's super cool. And then from there, started managing from others, built up experience. I think he took on like 120 units at one time, and talk about sitting your butt in the fire, right? And just learning trial and error. And he also shares how he's found his deals. That's a really good topic on here. And then how he's navigated COVID, self-managing, and all the tenant restrictions that are in place. So today's a really good show. I think you guys are going to get a lot of value out of it. And then, after the show, of course, take this over to Instagram, check out David's account, check out my account. Would love to hear from you guys there. And of course, if you haven't yet, please leave the show a rating and review. Freaking does a big help to get the show out there and get it noticed and allow me to get other cool guests like David. So really appreciate that. So that's all I got for today. And let's get into the show. David, welcome to the podcast. I got the DIY Landlord here, so it's awesome to have you.
Thank you so much, Blake. I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, this will be a really good show. I think you have this really unique strategy. And if you've seen David's Instagram, his handles at DIY Landlord, a lot of cool stuff on there. So through that, I wanted to bring you on and dig into some of that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm happy to talk about whatever. Got lots of different aspects to my story. So
there we go, man. Yeah, why don't we start with that? Like, where'd you start on your real estate journey in this whole thing?
Yeah, it's a crazy story. I was working as a hospital administrator in Africa, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and I decided to get financial freedom, and I was going to do that by using real estate. So
this is why you're over in Africa. Decided to start buying property.
Yeah. Exactly. So I said, okay, let me read up on this. I'm like, I want to be financially independent. Like, real estate sounds good. So started reading up and I partnered with my dad and we both put like 50-50 in and bought a quadplex. My very first property. Yeah,
that's super interesting. It's like a very, very unique way to get started. Like what led to that? Was it like a life goal to just be, have cash flow coming in and not be tied to a W-2, or what'd that look like?
Yeah, it was more about like the freedom to be able to go work anywhere. It was really a small cash flow goal because I just said, okay, I want to be able to work. I was working in Mission and whatever country I want to go live and work in and not have to worry about a salary. And the way to get to that was basically real estate, providing, multifamily cash flowing properties.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love it.
And the goal was $30,000 a year. That's what I was trying to get, $30,000 a year.
There you go. For a missionary, that'd be a good salary, and just keep it going so you can do that kind of stuff. Are you and your dad still doing that kind of stuff, or you have changed?
My dad still works actually in a mission organization. He's going to be retiring from there this year. And my mother and father-in-law, they're still involved in the hospital, and we still do things on a limited basis. But right now, no, I'm full-time in real estate here in the States and just
awesome. Yeah. Let's get into that. You're stateside now. You guys bought this fourplex. Like, I want to know why you guys started with multifamily. And then from that point, where'd you go from there?
Okay. So we started with multifamily, not because we thought multifamily was the best or whatever. It was just more about the purchase price versus the rental income. And we noticed pretty quickly when I was researching, and in order to get the return, I wanted to get a 20% cash on cash return. And in order to get that type of return, those were in multifamily. Single family weren't really giving that unless you were in the really bad areas and didn't want to invest in bad areas.
Which can definitely be problematic. And I hear a lot of that now. It's like, how do I get, a return on investment? I might as well, especially now in the market cycle, people are like, I might as well just invest in, a mutual fund and return, 5, 6, 7%, whatever it is. So I love that you said that. It's like, we're getting 20%. So we're shooting for multifamily.
Yeah. And I told my dad that originally, like, hey, we're going to get 20% return. And he said, oh, that's what Warren Buffett gets. I don't know what Warren Buffett gets, but we're going to get 20% return. And we've done it. I think the same thing. Like, I'm not going to go get an 8% total return, ROI on I might as well just put it in the index.
Yeah, you might as well not put in all the work and, minutes and do the rehabs and all that other kind of stuff. Yeah. I love it, man. Yeah, that's good. I think if it's good enough for Warren Buffett, it's good enough.
Right.
Sounds like it was good enough for you. I'd take that too. That's awesome. So from there, man, how did you get started and just jump in and embrace being the DI landlord guy?
Okay. So how I became the DIY, it's DIY_landlord on Instagram. Okay, so we scaled up to 24 units while I was living in the Congo. And my dad had his full-time job, and he was kind of managing it and doing a decent job. It was 24 units. They were pretty good, no big issues. And when I decided to make the switch to come back here, I was like, okay, I'm going to do it full time. Like, with the 24 units, I'm going to manage that. I also got another part-time job managing some other people's properties. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to jump in and do real estate full time. And that's when it really took off for me, because I already had a hands-on background. I already know how to work with people. I already understand that the telephone, I'm not scared of the phone. I'm not scared of talking to people or tenants or anything like that. I'm used to all of that. So it was kind of a good fit for the property management, that side of it. And I had the hands-on, I can fix stuff. I can fix the toilet. I can change a lock. I can fix the lights. I can do remodel if I wanted to. Like, I had that skill as well. So I kind of was in the beginning doing a lot of the grunt work and the management and buying properties. And as I've scaled, I kind of take back a little by little of what I'm doing and just start focusing more and more on the bigger picture stuff. Yeah,
that's a good progression. So just to jump back a little bit, you were managing these 24 units from the Congo.
No, my dad was actually managing them.
Okay, so
we were partners 50-50 in it. And so he was here in the States and he was managing them, but he had a full-time job as well.
Gotcha. So you guys are partnering up. You're still over in the Congo. You got the 24 units here, and you guys are kind of splitting those duties.
Yeah,
awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's good. And I think that path too is start out doing everything yourself. That's pretty much how I started. And it's a good path. And I'd like to see your thoughts on this, because you learn a lot just by doing it, by being hands-on. And then when you go to, like you're saying, hire things out or outsource or partner up, whatever that looks like for you as you grow, you figure out how to manage those things better. So what did that process look like for you as you kind of, grew out and decided what you like and what you don't like?
Yeah. So there's certain things that I figured I don't like doing. I don't like painting. So from the very beginning, I never painted, which is an easy thing to do.
There's paint lines. The gray is all over my ceiling.
Yeah, but it's actually easy to paint, but I just don't enjoy it. I don't like it, and it takes time. So from the very beginning, I was always looking for painters. I wasn't paying painting companies expensive costs. I was like, okay, let me just find some decent, affordable painters, and I would go through painters and painters and painters. That was the first one. I was like, okay, I'm definitely hiring painters and cleaners. I don't like cleaning, but those were just things I didn't like. But the other stuff, when you do it, it's so right that how it's supposed to be done. You know how much time it takes you. You know how much, and when you realize wait a minute, I'm paying that much. Should I really be paying that much for that? If you've never done it, you don't know. You don't know when something's going wrong, when you're being taken advantage of either on cost or it's not done right. It's hard to really know. And also, I have the advantage of, if I need to jump in there and do something, I can do it. So there might be a time, there was my maintenance guy, he had a pacemaker put in, so he was out for 3 weeks. And then, the calls that I needed to do, I could go do them. Not that I necessarily wanted to, but I was able to.
I had the ability. So yeah, really in that scenario, it gives you a little bit of control or ownership of the process. Like if you need to go get it done, you can. And obviously you get into real estate to kind of, I think most people do anyway, to be more hands-off, more passive. But in the beginning, like you're going to get to that spot in that place in your life probably sooner if you can learn all this up front. And I managed my own properties at the start and learned a lot of hard lessons that I might not have dealt with if I had property management. But because of that, I, build up, like flex those muscles, right. And and work through it. So I think that's really,
and you can even understand, like, I don't think property management is for everybody. I happen to be good at it, but it's not for everybody. But even if it's not for you, doing it for a couple of units really can open your eyes to what kind of issues there are, and can either give you a more appreciation for your property manager and realize what they're going through, or you can also realize, wait a minute, this property manager is not really doing what they're supposed to. Why is that property sitting vacant for 3 months? When I did it, it only took me 1 week to rent it out.
Yeah, you can get in there.
So you can
put the right boot in the right butts.
Exactly. So that having that a little bit of property management experience, I think, is really great for people who are starting out. Whether you're going to do it forever, you don't have to.
Yeah, I think when you get started too, and you might agree with this or not, but it allows you to get to that financial freedom number sooner because you are saving that 10% or whatever it is. So you're able to get to that point, and from that point, if you're covering your expenses or whatever, then you can start to allocate more time, get out of your W-2 or whatever that destination looks like for you, get you there.
Yes. What it did for me was I would take, and I still do, I just live off of the 8% that I take technically as as my management fee. So then everything else gets to be reinvested in the property and buying more properties and reinvestment and everything like that. So yeah, if I didn't have the property management part, I couldn't have jumped out of a W-2 as soon as I did. No doubt. And I couldn't have grown as fast as I did if I wasn't doing my own property management. It didn't limit me from growing, because some people think like, oh, if you're doing your property management, then you're too focused on it. You're working in your business, not on your business. But that's not really true with real estate, because if you're actually working in your business and real estate, then you're connecting with people, you're getting connections, you're networking, you're doing all of those things. And that's how you really grow. And in the beginning, especially, managing your own properties doesn't hinder you from growing like that, because you definitely have time still to go.
Because you don't have enough yet. It's not necessary for you to outsource everything. That's a really good point. Yeah,
exactly.
Man. Yeah, I like that. That's really good. So let's talk about the growth to get you there. Like when you started out, as a guy coming from over in the Congo and your dad's here, when you got here, started buying properties, how are you finding those early deals? And, we'll talk about the progression of finding deals.
Okay. So from the 24 units, we basically did just the old fashioned save up your 25% down payment and buy properties. Save up your 25% payment, buy a property. Like we just did it the old school way. Yeah. Up to 24 units. Then after that, when I came back full time, we started doing a couple more creative things, a couple of burrs, some like owner finance, but really it took off when I did my first partnership with someone who brought the money for the down payment. And then I found the deal. I did everything on the deal. And they just basically, for a 35% stake in the property, they put the down payment, or most of the down payment. I put some of it down. And that really, that I was able to get 10 duplexes on one street like that. So that
nice.
20
on the whole block.
Yeah. Still do. I was over there today yelling at one of my tenants, not really yelling at him, but because his yard was too dirty and I was cleaning it up. I was going to throw away his stuff. And he's like, no, don't throw it. That's my stuff. I was like, no, this is too trashy. Anyways. Yeah. But yeah, taking care of my street over there.
Yeah. So for you, like on little stuff like that, here's a cool little point that I learned from, I think it was like Brandon Turner's book on managing rental properties. Do you do, having your lease to where like if they've got like sheets in the windows or they got trash in the yard or parked cars on cinder blocks in the yard, then that's a lease violation and then you can get them out?
Oh yeah. Except you can't get them out right now here in Hamilton County. So I'm kind of stuck. Like I probably would have just kicked them out already, but they're paying rent. And even if I'd be like, okay, you need to clean it up. I'll fine you. Okay. And it's like, they're not paying the fine. They're paying the rent, but they're not paying the fine. And like, I just want the neighborhood to look good. But because right now it's unfortunate in Tennessee, the Supreme Court said that in order to reduce COVID, you can't have like in-person hearings for unnecessary court cases. And apparently eviction is not like necessary enough to be had. And other counties are doing it by phone, but our county is not. So we can't get eviction court hearings until end of April right now.
Dang, that's tough. So two more full months.
And it's since December, it's been like this. So like they closed in January 1st. So it'll be closed from January 1st all the way through April. And right now, if you try to apply, you're like at the end
and that's
of
just in your area, right? And you're in Chattanooga, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's
just in Chattanooga, in Hamilton County. And I have some property in Bradley County, which is just the next county over, and they're doing it by phone. So I don't have that issue there. But it's just.
I think the local government could adapt to the times and either do things online or over.
I know, right?
Like the rest of the world, you know.
They even the federal wanted to, but they.
Man,
they really could. But so it puts me in a pickle, right? Yeah, I do have that thing. They have to keep it clean. They have these things, and yeah, it's a lease violation. Of course, I have all of that in there. But in the times we're in, we have to kind of come up with solutions where we try to keep as many people paying rent and try to keep it nice. And it does upset me because I have like 3 people I really want to move out, but
yeah,
I'm stuck with them.
I bet when you got that many units, that's there's bound to be a few that just aren't up to the snuff. So I want to get into that a little bit, the tenant issues. But talking about finding deals while we're on this topic, starting out where you were in the beginning, how has it changed like present day, finding deals, through COVID in your area?
Okay. So most of the deals I've always found, even from the beginning, I kind of lucked into a strategy. I don't want to say lucked. I researched into a strategy of networking directly with the listing agent on a deal. So I wasn't dependent on one buyer's agent, even though I was overseas. I was looking for deals myself. I was trying to network with, listing agents who has the listings. And then when I came here, I started even doing it more. It's like, okay, like I'm going to the networking events. I'm just talking to realtors. So most all of my deals I've bought because of my network, even though they're realtors or they're not realtors, whatever it was. Like, for example, my first 20 unit purchase, that came to me because I was buying a single family home and I was just talking with the listing agent because I didn't have a buyer's agent. I was talking directly. And then I'm an investor. And she's like, oh, you're an investor? I have these other 10 duplexes that I'm thinking of listing. So I got them under contract before she even listed them.
That's true pocket listing right there. So basically, you're able to do this by cutting out the buyer's agent. You're not using an agent on your side of the transaction, but instead going directly to the seller's listing agent. So it's just the one mediator.
Right. So they know I buy properties. So when they have another listing, they call me directly and be like, hey, you want to buy this? Because they know they're going to get double the commission if they sell directly to me.
Yep.
Now, it's not that I'm a
tactic too. Yeah.
It's not that I'm against buyer's agent. I use buyer's agent sometimes. Like if a buyer agent somehow finds a deal that I'm not aware of and brings it to me, I'll let them represent me and make their money on it.
I like how you frame that. If this buyer's agent somehow finds a deal that I didn't see.
It happens occasionally.
No, that's good. I've had success with the same strategy by doing deals and going directly to the selling agent. I forget where I heard of this, but when I did, I was like, that makes so much sense. They make double the commission. Of course, they're going to be more incentivized to sell it to you rather than somebody with the same offer where they're making half the commission. Right. I mean, it's just logic there on the agent side. And then on the side of negotiations, you're dealing directly, with only one mediator instead of 2. Yep. So like instead of this back and forth, you're just talking right to the person, which helps a lot. It's not quite direct to seller because there's a mediator, but it just streamlines things. I found it to be.
And the less people in between, the better.
Yeah.
For the communication and that kind of thing. And sometimes it can be hard to get across. Sometimes it depends. Like some buyers agents, they want to like win for their client and they could, fight over things and squabble over things that aren't even really necessary to squabble over, like just get the deal done. But that depends. But so it's changed then over time. That holds true though, is I'm finding my stuff through my network. Even now, networking, being involved, that's where I'm still finding stuff. But the deals definitely have changed. You do have to work harder to find better deals. And then COVID happened and things like slowed down because there was the uncertainty. And then the supply still hasn't come back.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that, like, a supply in your area really low too, because I know here in the Panhandle, really everybody I've talked to, the supply is down and the demand is staying at the same, if not increasing. So, I mean, prices are going up. It's people are fighting for deals, doing kick out clauses and escalation clauses, and almost fighting in the street to get a good deal.
To get a deal. But I'm still finding stuff.
It is. I mean, really, it sounds like it's the strength of the network. And I tell people all that all the time, like, go to the local meetups. Man, when you just spend your time to find these good deals and meet people, good things come back to you.
Oh yeah, for sure. And so, it's crazy. Even just being on Instagram, like, I have had people reach out to me on Instagram and bring me deals through my Instagram in Chattanooga. It's like, oh wow, that's crazy. It's just every little thing that someone could find you and think about you when they have an opportunity to tell.
Yeah, the more known you are, the more opportunities are going to come. I think Grant Cardone says it's not the best, it's the best known who wins.
I didn't hear that. I like that.
It sounds very Grant Cardone-ish, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Yeah. But speaking of Grant Cardone, transition into like the multifamily stuff you're doing. So I understand you're in this like mid-size multifamily strategy, like you focus on a certain unit range. Can you talk about that and like why that unit range?
Yeah. So in multifamily, everyone, as it's investing in real estate become popular, everybody wants to buy a duplex, and everyone in America has the ability to buy a duplex.
Yes.
Yep. If you live in America legally, you're probably, no matter what your situation is, you're probably at worst 2 years away from buying a duplex if you wanted to.
Yeah, let's talk about why, because I think if like people understand this, they can get into multifamily like faster, and it scales from there.
Yeah, because you can go, if you don't own a home, you can go live in a duplex, and you can go live in a quadplex, and you can get in there's like all sorts of down payment assistance.
VA loans, FHA.
So what? Okay, so now I have to go get a job. It's like, let's say you had no job. So now you just go get a job. Now you have W-2 income, and you save up a little bit of money, and you show the bank you saved up some money and you want to buy a house, and maybe you have to fix your credit. So you have a year fixing your credit and not, buying stupid stuff on debt. Instead, you just pay everything off every month. Now you fix your credit up enough, whatever, 600 credit score, 650, that they'll let you buy something, and then you're in for a couple $1,000s. Yeah. And now the deal doesn't even have to be that great, honestly. You could buy a deal way more expensive than me because you're putting so little money in and you're getting such good.
So your return, you can still return because it's based on what you have.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love how you can use leverage like that and spend, a couple $1,000s to get $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 worth of real estate. And if you have the extra unit, the income from that can offset the mortgage, or at least reduce it.
Exactly. And so you're living in, and if you're young, like just live in one room and you rent out the other room inside your duplex, and now you're making money. And then you just live in there for 6 months or a year and you go do it again. So those type of people have an advantage over me. Believe it or not, I can't go get those conventional mortgages like that, because when I take my stuff to the bank, they're like, oh, no. You don't fit in our box, right? You don't have W-2, you don't have this, you don't have that. You already have too many mortgages, whatever. Yep. So I can only go get the commercial mortgages.
Yep. I'm kind of in the same boat now. It's just all my stuff is turned out to be.
You reached that point. So I'm at a disadvantage for a duplex in a way, because someone else can pay more than me and still make financial sense. So everyone has that opportunity to buy a duplex. So there's a lot of demand and everyone has the idea to do it. And I think it's a great idea. If you're starting out, like, go buy a duplex, especially if you're young, live in one side, rent it out, buy a quadplex if you can, live in one unit and rent out.
Right. Then you got 3 to rent out. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, so if I started over when I was young, that's what I would do. I would have bought a quadplex instead of a single family home as my first purchase. Anyways, everyone's doing that. Then everyone wants the big multifamily, not everybody, the big players, Grant Cardone and all these other top dogs who have a lot of money and aren't worried about the cash flow. The truth is, on these bigger apartment complex deals, like we're talking like 100 units or more, you normally, the play is normally not to make cash flow. It's to improve the asset so that you can sell it again at a higher price. Yep. They're really just flipping. They're using forced appreciation And so really, the lower the cap rate, the better it is for them if they know they can flip it later.
They get the higher value. Yeah. Yeah. Can you,
the higher value
that might not be tracking. Can you talk about why that is based on how the properties are valued?
All right. So commercial properties, multifamily, even commercial, they are sold based off of a cap rate, or the cap rate tells you what those types of things are selling at in that market. So how a cap rate is determined is you take your net operating income and you divide it by the purchase or the sales price, right? So if your net operating income was 100,000 and it's sold for $1 million, that would be a 10 cap property. Okay. So a 10% cap rate. It's essentially what return would you get if you bought the property for cash?
Yeah. Basically your unleveraged return. Yeah.
Your unleveraged return, essentially. Now, people who are purists hate when you say cap rate is used like that because that's not what it's used like. It's a historical value. Anyways, I get it. But essentially, that's what it's telling you.
Yeah.
So when you increase that net operating income, when you increase rents, your value goes up because it's a function of that cap rate. So if the cap rate in your market stays the same, but you increase your rents, you've now increased the value of your property.
Yep.
And if you're in a 10 cap market, increasing rents increases your value. But if you're in a 5 cap market, increasing the rents by the same amount is an even more increase of your value because it's a higher multiplier.
Yep.
So that's why I say they have a lower cap rate. They like it to be in a lower cap rate because it's supposedly, the cap rate is also supposed to basically tell you kind of the risk. So if it's a lower cap rate market, it should be a safe bet. It should be a nice property. It should be a market where it's going to appreciate. So as long as they can get the rents up and keep the expenses down, they know in 5 years, they can turn around and sell it again with those higher rents off that cap rate and make a big amount of money on their exit. Okay, so that's their strategy.
Yeah, and these are the big guys and big commercial multifamily and all that to say, like, I think where we're getting is like the small guys, there's too many competition with like retail buyers. And then up here, you got too much competition with big money guys. So
big money who don't care about immediate cash flow or it being cash flow positive. So they're paid.
And starting out, like most people want the cash flow. That's why they invest. So that's why the medium-sized multifamily can be really strong.
Yes. So then in the medium, like in my market, there's not much competition for the 10 to 30 units because it's too big for the people who are starting out, and 30 units is too small for the hedge fund people, the big dogs.
They usually want they want the property manager and the leasing office on site and the maintenance guy on site to make it, more hands-off, lower cap, lower risk for them.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. So that's where I found wow, this is a sweet spot. I can get properties for a good price that have good cash flow, and I can do forced appreciation. Now it's forced appreciation on something that trades at a 7 or 8 cap, but it's still great. I've loved it.
Yeah, and still big value to be had for sure, and cash flow, which we all
and it cash flows. And originally that was my whole thing was cash flow, and still cash flow provides the safety. I don't need the cash flow like I did in the beginning, but I still like the safety that it provides. Like, okay, that this is going to be solid no matter what happens in the market.
Yeah, that's good. So to buy these, 10 to 30, 40, 50, whatever it is, that size unit of properties, is this just something that you've grown organically through and reinvested gains or cash flow from other properties, or are you syndicating or taking JVs? Like how are you putting these things together?
I'm doing most of the stuff either so I've saved and built up my war chest and reinvested and stuff like that. So I've done that as well. But most of the stuff and the bigger deals I'm doing now, I'm doing either like a private loan with some investors. So they'll lend the money and then I'll buy it, raise the rents, refinance it, and pay off their loan.
Okay. So they're basically in a debt position. Just
like a debt position, almost. Just a private loan. Now it's secured, they get a mortgage just like they were a bank, and I pay them interest and everything. And that's surprisingly easy. People might think wow, that's so difficult to do, but literally it's really easy to do. The title company does all the legal documents.
You guys are just doing promissory notes in Tennessee, right?
Promissory note and a deed of trust, a deed, whatever, they record the deed. And it costs $250 for me to pay them, the title company, to do that.
Yeah. That's a great way to start out raising money if you're finding deals that support it, because I just did that this week. And I literally sent the title agent the terms, the name and everything. She put it all in the mortgage, sent it back for review. It was good. And then she recorded it and it was done.
Yeah.
It was a 2 email thing. And like you're saying, like 200 or 250 bucks added to the closing. So
the closing cost.
Yeah. Super easy.
So super easy. And the investor has security because they have an actual mortgage, right? Just like the bank does. And they can foreclose on you if you don't pay, which they should. I don't care if they're your cousin or whoever they are, they should foreclose on you if you're not paying your debts. So that's one way. And then I do it on a property where I know I can turn it around quickly, and I normally say a year, and then I turn it around within 6 months, pay off the debt and with the refinance, and the bank comes in.
And these are on the bigger multifamilies, right? Like the 30 units.
The medium.
Have you dealt with people like wanting equity, or do you just have that network built up?
And I do. No. And I do well. Equity. I do partnerships as well. Not like syndications where I'm putting all these little people together and all this little money and they're just completely passive. I'd be like, okay, you're interested in investing and you want to learn some, and you'll be involved with a few decisions here and there. This is what we'll do. But I found the deal, I put it together and And so in exchange for putting the down payment in, you get this percentage of the cash flow, you get this percentage of the pay down on the debt, you get this percentage of if we sell the property, the profit.
Yeah, it's more like a joint venture agreement, a partnership rather than
it's partnership. It's just a complete partnership, and sometimes they also will sign on the debt as well with the bank. So we've all signed on the debt, which is something you have to talk with people if they're comfortable with signing on all the debt. And then sometimes I'm able to do it where they don't have to sign on the debt and the bank's okay with just me signing on the debt.
Yeah, I like that strategy. And when you do these, are you buying them at lower prices, value add, and then refinancing to non-recourse loans to where your guys' names aren't on the mortgages? Or are you still in that range where they have to be recourse because they're smaller loan values?
So I'm at the range. I definitely can do non-recourse. There is non-recourse available. And I haven't done it yet because the loan program is called the SBL, Small Balance Loan Program, which is the best fit for if you have like $1 million to $10 million.
Yeah, that's the product we used on our 66 unit. So it's a pretty good product.
It's a good product. What?
I said that it's a good product. There's a lot of hoops to jump through, though.
Exactly, right? And when COVID happened in the beginning, they put all these other type of restrictions in there as well. And I bought a property that I had planned on. Okay, I had the whole plan set up. The guy was going to put all the money up. We were buying it cash, and we were going to be 50-50 partners. Then I was going to refinance with non-recourse, and then he would become 25 and I'd be 75. And then I talked to the non-recourse people and they're like, oh, well, we could do it, but you're not going to get the appraised value unless you hold it for over a year. And I was like, that's not going to work. I'm trying to get appraised value because I bought it really cheap and I've increased the value and it's worth a lot more now. I mean, I bought it for 1.1 and it appraised for 1.7 3 months later. So
not a bad return in 3 months, 200,000 a month.
Right? Yeah, not bad at all. Yeah. And so then I just went to a local bank and put normal recourse on it with no early termination fee. And so then after it's been a year, I'll go apply for the non-recourse. And that way, I don't like hassle, honestly. I like things, and I don't like not having control of knowing if something's going to go through or not. So I do like the whole buying it cash or buying it with a local bank who I know is going to perform on the loan.
Yeah, I kind of side with you there. Sometimes I feel like I'd rather just take the easier route, and not like out of laziness, but it just runs smoother. Like I've always had your times,
especially when you're buying. Now, when it's coming to refinance, okay, because then I have time. Then I can try to go get the best.
You're not pressed, but when you're buying, you got to meet the seller's timeline. You got these due diligence timeline. I'd rather just it be easy. That's
and it's interesting. I was listening. I'm sure you probably know Jake and Gino. I was listening to some of their things, and they said they use that same strategy where they buy it with local debt, local bank debt, and then they do the thing, and then they put the other debt on it because it's just so easy.
And it sounds like, I think I heard them tell this story. I don't know. It's been a while ago on a podcast, and it sounds like this deal that went from 1.1 to 1.7 might've been similar, but you could, buy it cash or with, local community bank, whatever it is. And then when you refinance to a non-recourse loan, there's enough equity and value created that at your LTV, you can pull back all your initial capital, and then you have money left in the deal, and it's non-recourse, and you truly have essentially no risk, right? Because you don't have any money and it's not tied to your name. It's like the holy grail of a big burr.
Right. I mean, it's the burr on the next level, and that property, that's what's going to end up happening. I mean, I'm not going to have any money in it, and I'm going to eventually be non-recourse. However, recourse is good because of how your debt and everything like that, how the banks look at it, not having recourse on you. But I never plan on letting the property fail and not paying it. And
well, most people don't. But
some people do. Some people are like, oh yeah, I'd rather use someone else's money because so if it fails, then I'm not losing money.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Some people think like that.
That's the wrong way to think, for sure.
No, it is.
Yeah.
It is. You got to treat, I don't care whose it is. Like, I treat someone else's money better than mine, whether they're a partner with me, even if it's a bank. Like, I borrowed their money. Like, I got to treat it with respect, whether I'm recourse or not.
I do the same thing. I treat it like grandma's money. Like, when you're little and grandma gave you money, like go to the store and you're like holding it out in front of you and you're like, I got to protect this. And you hand it just to the person at the register. That's like what I do borrowing money. It's like, it's protected. You got to fence it. That's kids.
Yeah.
Talking about adding value to these properties, it sounds like what you're doing is burr kind of on the next level with these 10 to 30 unit properties. So across your portfolio, what are some of the tips and tricks that you're using to boost your NOI?
Okay. My costs, I really keep my costs down, and I'm able to do that because I manage myself. Mm-hmm. So, I have my maintenance team, and I look for vendors, and I put stuff in, like I don't put carpet in anymore. I just put, I have this LVP flooring that I use that's durable, so I'm not replacing that. I use the exact same paint for everywhere. It's the paint on this wall. It's on my house. Like the exact same paint goes everywhere.
Yeah, I bought so many gallons of this lazy gray Valspar paint. It's gone all over.
I use Repos Gray from Sherwin-Williams. Repos Gray and white trim.
Grays are in, man. It's like 50 shades of gray in our call right now. Not what you think, though.
But so reducing that cost, like at the end. Now, that's important. I mean, that's great for profitability. And then also really just increasing the rents by, so there's two parts to this though. I focused on, increasing the rents, but more importantly, increasing economic occupancy. And
you talk about what that difference is for the people listening, like the difference.
So occupancy,
economic.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So occupancy is how full your apartments or your things are. So if you have 100 units and you have one vacant, then you have 1%, vacancy, right? You're 99% full. But economic occupancy looks at how many of those people are paying. So maybe you have one vacant, but 9 people aren't paying. So now you only have 90% economic occupancy.
Yep.
Or you also look at, you had to turn apartments and it was empty for a while and that sort of thing. So really, how much money were you collecting out of the possible collections? Did you get 100% economic occupancy?
Yeah.
So, and this kind of, it balances, right? Like if you're in the A-level, top-level expensive stuff, and these apartment complexes, they're trying to get as maximum amount rent as possible. So they're trying to add all these little things in, and they have all these crazy formulas,
valet trash, and all kinds of stuff.
Right. Everything to try to get as high as possible. But what happens is, if you're trying to get as high rent as possible, you're gonna have turnover. And the average stay in apartment complexes, I forget what it was, but I think the average stay in apartment complexes is like 14 months or something like that. So most people aren't staying more than a year. And it's like, there's always another one that has nicer amenities, or they have the move-in special or whatever it is. So my goal was really like, okay, I want to reduce that turnover because turnover is expensive, and I want to make sure people are paying. And that really makes a huge difference. Which annoys me that I can't evict people right now because it's a big tool to make sure people are paying, right?
Yeah.
But still, overall,
Yeah, I've seen this be a big issue too. And I'd like to know if like what you've seen when underwriting properties, if like physical vacancy is staying kind of consistent, but like economic vacancy growing since COVID, because that's where I've seen a little bit of trouble as you look at the T12, which is like the last 12 months of income and expenses. It's you see, so basically today, if you got a T12 today, you'd be looking at January of 2020. So you look at that and you see a spike over the last 12 months when COVID hit, and economic occupancy has gone up because like you might have people staying in that aren't paying. So, what you're collecting is going down, like your gross potential income and your gross collected, that total difference is kind of what's gone up, even though people aren't moving.
So here's a very good point for people. If you're just getting into trying to look at these type of financials, you want to make sure you're looking at a cash basis income statement. There's two types of ways to do accounting. There's accrual, and cash basis.
Accrual.
So accrual, I didn't say the word.
There you go.
Anyways.
I say it wrong every time too.
So basically the difference is the cash basis is, well, how much money actually came in. With the accrual, it's like how much were you owed? And then you count that, and then you go back at the end and count bad debt and da-da-da-da-da. So if you're looking at an accrual basis, you might think, oh man, they're collecting all this money. But when you look at a cash basis, you're going to know what really was going on. So always make sure the financials you're looking at are cash basis, because it's so much easier to see, okay, exactly what happened. Not like, oh yeah, we got that income and we got this income.
I don't know if I've ever heard anybody mention this.
You can get,
that's a good tip.
Because it's crazy, because you could have, with accrual, technically you earn it when it's due. And so you could have this person who didn't pay like 5 months rent, right? But you said you earned it all. Then you have a separate line where you have your attorney collection and you got a judgment. And so you're supposed to have all these fees coming in from the attorney on your second line. And it's kind of like double the income, right? Because you entered it both times and technically you earned it, and then you go back and you do bad debt and stuff like that. But if you're looking on a T12, you may not realize, like you might think they collected all that rent and that they collected like $5,000 in back rent from their attorney, when in reality they didn't collect any of it.
Yeah, that's really good. I think usually they come in cash basis, right? Accrual is not the norm, or what do you see?
It depends. You have to specify. Like my property management software I use, I can choose which one I want to show. So if I'm selling something, I could decide, okay, I'll send them this accrual. And most people don't know to ask, right? And it looks even better. Yeah. If they don't ask, it's a legitimate accounting thing. I'm not changing the number. Like I'm not fudging the numbers. Like it's legitimate. They just need to ask if it's what they think it is.
Tricky. for somebody looking at one of these, how do you tell the difference if you're just looking at the T12?
You verify.
Yeah, just by
like
asking.
There's sometimes it will say at the top if it's cash basis or accrual, but someone could not include that line where it says what it is. Oftentimes it doesn't say. You would need to verify, hey, get confirmation. Is this cash basis?
Yeah. That's a really good tip.
I just got there because you were asking about like collections and stuff. In our area, collections have been somewhat of a problem, but we kind of weathered it pretty well. The local government got money and they helped people, and there was like money available for people who needed it, who really figured out how to do it. And it was really just the tenants who were already bad just stayed bad. I didn't see really any like good tenants that went bad on me because of COVID. Because if they really were good tenants, they got into a bad situation, then they went and looked for the help. And then the government was like, here's 3 months rent, go pay your rent to your landlord. And it
really just revealed.
But this year, this year, it's kind of, I'm a little bit, okay, is there going to be more of this assistance coming? How is it going to continue on? And I know in other areas, I've talked to other investors, they've had a real problem with collections. I think it's pretty area specific.
Yeah, I've kind of experienced the same thing. Like I can't say, one area is good and one area is bad. It's just, it all depends on kind of what local governments are doing really and how they're handling stimulus and all those programs. Yeah. Good stuff, man. Well, I want to get into a little bit of the fun side of this, or maybe the not so fun side, depending on where you're at. But so you manage all your own properties. I want to just start this off with, I don't know, like a crazy crazy tenant story? I'm sure you have a plethora to choose from.
I have a bunch, but my
Might scare
craziest one
people off listening from managing their own.
I know, right? Okay, so keep in mind, people, I currently have 170 multifamily units that I manage myself, and I got 2 commercial buildings. And in addition to that, I've managed like another 120 units for another organization. And so at one point I was managing 250 units myself. So
which is not a small number of units. It's exactly. A lot of tenants.
So I have, you might go your whole life and never have some of these experiences. I just, 250 units over a couple of years, it ends up to be a lot of interaction. Okay. So let me just preface that. So, and hopefully this never happens to you, but I was on vacation, and this was probably the worst one. I was on vacation in Italy, and I got a message from one of the tenants with a picture. She's like, "This has just happened right down the road." And it was a picture of a guy who had just been shot out in the front of the duplex.
Oh no.
And I was like, oh no. And like, he's just body in the street. And she just like took a picture and sent it to me. And I'm on vacation, like, oh no, what happened? Like, what went on? Like trying to figure out like, okay, which duplex was it? Like which tenant, like who got, and it turned out it was a guy who I had evicted, went back with his girlfriend, who was now dating the new guy who I told couldn't live in there because of his criminal record, right? So neither of those guys were supposed to be there. One was evicted and the other one was not allowed to live there because he was a criminal. But she was legally allowed to be there. Both guys end up being there at one point. They have an argument and they're fighting. And the one guy says to the other one, "What are you going to do? Shoot me?" And the guy just pulls out a gun and shoots him straight in the head.
Oh my goodness. Right
there in the street.
You got to deal with a 187 out there on the block. Gosh dang. That's some Snoop Dogg stories right there.
And it's like, yeah, that was, I was like, man, that's rough. And then the poor girl who's there, I let her out of her lease. I was like, I felt so bad for her. She had to go through that. And she was, I mean, surprisingly good through it. I mean, she was still paying rent, but I was like, okay, when you find another place, like I'll let you out of the lease. I'm sure you don't want to live there.
Yeah, that's a terrible story. Oh man, I couldn't imagine. I don't even know what I'd do, especially not if I was in Italy trying to enjoy myself. And then and my conscience.
I know, and then in the end of it was though, I didn't actually end up have to do anything. The police never contacted me. If it wasn't a news story and if it wasn't my tenant telling me about it, I could have gone blissfully on and never even known, right? That
weigh on you though. Goodness.
Yeah, it does. I mean, and you kind of were, okay, what about the area? But it was like, okay, this was just a domestic dispute. Those can happen anywhere. It wasn't like this was, and I didn't feel like afraid for my life to go back to that neighborhood because I'm like, well, I'm not getting in fights with anybody. So we should be good. There was another guy around the corner who I evicted. He had installed a stripper pole in his living room.
And was he using it or holding parties?
No, he was not using it. And then he had like all these pit bulls, and he wasn't allowed to have any dogs. And it was fun talking to him, telling him, "Hey man, you got to move, you got to leave." And he was Section 8 was paying 100% of his rent. He had figured out somehow. And so, but there was a drive-by shooting on him. And when I kicked him out, I saw like there was like bullet holes like through the in the wall.
We need to get you in we need to get you in a liberal state where they have like no gun laws or something, not Tennessee, where every good old boy has a rifle and a pistol in their truck.
Right?
That's funny. Well, I guess on the good side then, like what are some tips you could give the listeners about managing your own tenants, taking care of them, and, doing the right things by placing the right tenants that don't have, gats on them ready to bust off shots.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So tenant screening is important. Having properties in areas that attract good tenants is also important, right? There's a headache versus return. These properties I'm talking about were actually ones that were managed. I didn't own them. I probably wouldn't have bought on that street if it was just my personal. It was kind of like on the edge, because if you can go to areas where it looks like you can get a lot of return in these lower income areas, and the purchase prices are lower and stuff like that.
That's a really good way to put
headaches.
The headache per income,
Yeah. The headache versus the return. Like, okay, you can look for a lot of return, but your headaches are going to be a lot bigger and a lot worse. And in the end, who knows what your returns are really going to be. So looking for properties, good properties, keeping your properties up, doing right by your tenants, communication. There's so much you can, if you're not afraid to communicate, like all my tenants, and this is kind of the problem I have with some property management is they want everything to be automated. They want any connection, direct connection, like everything behind a thing. And all my tenants, and even when I had 250, every single one has my cell phone number. Well, it's a Google Voice number that goes to my cell phone. But anyways, they have the direct line to me. So they can call and they can text me at any time. And having that direct communication, actually, people might think, wow, that's so crazy. That's like, must be so hectic. But it helps me alleviate bigger problems in the future. And it helps me be able to take care of things and know what's going on because it's such an easy, and I have them trained. They always text now. They hardly ever call. And I can look at it and see if I need to take care of it now, if it's an emergency, or if it can wait, I can get back to them and I can make that determination. But giving that personal service, if you are going to manage it yourself, is important. Don't just try to put everyone off and not worry about them. And then they're not going to worry about paying you. They can't get in touch with you.
Yeah. That's good to be personal and communicate.
Yeah, exactly. It's you be, and when you're doing listings, I mean, the same way. I mean, you just be above and beyond. And because of that, I get a lot of referrals. So I can fill like 50% of my stuff gets filled without even listing it because someone just calls me and texts me and says, hey, your tenant said that if you might have a place, or do you have a place? And it's like that. Because they know, my tenants know they can get me at that number, so they can give it out to a friend who can also get me. And it's like that. On the tenant screening side, that's very important. You always want to be doing credit and background checks, checking for evictions. Don't rent to anyone who has evictions, because the reason why is, it might sound bad, like don't ever rent to someone with evictions, but the reason why is because that person knows the system, and that's the type of person they are, that they will take advantage of that system. Because the difference between someone who just moved out in an eviction is a couple of months or whatever it is, but that person just milked it for a couple of months and then ended up having to move out anyways. They could have made the decision to move out, like whatever bad situation they were moving into because they had to move out. Well, they ended up in that bad situation, but instead they just, sucked the life out of your property before that happened. Yeah. So they're going to do it again.
So they're clear.
Yeah. They're going to fall into that bad habit. They might have a good job and everything, but if they fall in bad times, they're going to, go through an eviction.
You're going to feel it as the landlord. So
exactly. So don't rent to people who've been evicted. I mean, you can do whatever you want, but I don't rent to people who have violent felonies. You can kind of get in trouble if you say, I would never rent to anyone who has any type of felonies, and you can get into discrimination. But I just draw the line on violent felonies. That if they have a violent felony, I don't accept them. And then I do the credit report too, and see, and landlord verification is also very important.
Yeah, that's all really good stuff. Stuff I thankfully learned up front because I just dug in, because I was like, I don't want to go through evictions. I want to do it right the first time. And, and all that stuff is super important. And then as I put those systems in place for screening tenants, I saw, the red flags of people who could have turned out to be problem tenants. Like, oh no, this is what I read about. Stay away from them. So that's good. Yeah,
exactly. I always love the question, do you do credit and background checks? And don't even apply.
Exactly. Yeah, sorry, I don't have time for this. They're trying to game the system. But that's good, man. Now I want to transition to the last section of the show here. We're going to get into the
Fortune 5.
All right, here we go. This is the Fortune 5, the 5 questions I ask every investor on every show. So kicking it off, what's the biggest thing that has contributed to your success?
I think it's probably the mindset. I think it's just the mindset of, I can figure this out. I'm going to do it, and not have fear. I think that's probably contributed the most, because a lot of people think they need to figure everything out, or they need to ask someone else to tell them how to figure everything out. They don't want to go read it for themselves.
Yeah. Sometimes you just got to sit in the fire, sit back in the fire and go through it and come out like a sharpened iron.
Yeah.
I like it. Awesome. So what's been your biggest mistake so far that's turned into a learning lesson for you?
I have a hard time remembering my failures, because I always just focus on the wins, right? Even the failures don't really get me down. But I mean, biggest mistakes, I probably was buying a property in an area that I shouldn't have. That cost me money. And then I realized, okay, I really need to pay attention to, are there homeless people living around the corner who might break into my place when it's vacant because it's warm. I might not pay attention to that.
Yeah. So just know your market, know your area, and avoid that stuff. That's good. David, what's your favorite book that you'd recommend to someone just starting out?
Just starting out, The Millionaire Real Estate Investor by Gary Keller. Very good, like basic knowledge. You need to know this kind of stuff.
Yeah. I'm surprised in 26 shows, I don't think we've had that one yet. That's a super good book. Yeah. Gary Keller, he's the man. And The One Thing's really good too.
Oh, The One Thing's awesome too. And Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss.
Another great book. That book alone, I think, has made me, I don't know the exact number, tens of thousands of dollars for sure.
Oh, yeah. I'm in the hundreds of thousands of dollars that book made me. No joke.
Yeah, it's right here. Never Split the Difference. Definitely, if you haven't read that one, go read that. And then The Millionaire Real Estate Investor. Good stuff. You got two today, a little bonus book. And so, David, outside of managing your properties, what do you like to do outside of real estate?
So I haven't been doing it much because of COVID, but I like to play soccer. And I also have started now doing adventure races, which is like running, kayaking.
Yeah, I think I saw that on your Instagram. What is this adventure?
Yeah. So it's really crazy. You just go race for a whole day and try to navigate and find the checkpoints and run and kayak and bike and kill yourself, and you're almost dead at the end. And it's a great challenge.
Is this like out west somewhere, or is it like in the mountains?
It'll be in they do it all over. Like they have races all over, but it's in the wilderness somewhere. They'll do like in a state park and
love it. Yeah, that sounds awesome. That's like right up my alley. What's it called? Just endurance race?
Adventure racing.
Racing.
Did you have you ever watched World's Toughest Race? It's on Amazon. They raced through Fiji. That's how I got hooked. Like they took like 10 days and raced all the way through Fiji. I mean, it was a crazy race.
What do you get if you win this? Like if you survive it and then win it, is there a surprise or just satisfaction?
Okay. Maybe that was the funny thing. I was like, they did all of that and then they got like $50,000. I was like, that doesn't seem like right, but I'm just doing it. I mean, I'm paying to do it, right? I'm paying my entrance fee and I'm going and doing, but I'm only doing like 1 day races. I'm not, I want to work up. There's one that goes across Florida. It's called the Sea to Sea. It's a 3-day race.
That'd be sick.
Go all the way across.
That's Florida. In my neck of woods. I'll have to join you for that one. I'd love to do it. I've been looking at doing like a Spartan race or something like that with my brother-in-law because he does those kind of races. And I'm like, man, I want to do that. I'm not playing football anymore, so I need something to push me.
What I like about this is you have to use your mind. It's not. You can't just be, okay, you're just the fastest runner, the fastest, toughest person.
You have to overcome.
Go. You have to navigate. You have to problem solve. It's not only about your physical fitness. And that's what I really like about the last race I did was actually in Florida, in Jasper, Florida. That's North Florida, right there near Georgia. But that was
good stuff. Yeah, I'm going to have to look more into it and do my first adventure race sometime this year. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So, man, last question, the Fortune 5, where can people find out more about you or connect with you?
Oh, yeah. At DIY_landlord on Instagram. Shoot me a message, ask me an intelligent question. I'll be happy to respond.
I like that. Ask an intelligent question.
Yeah. And what I mean intelligent question is something that you couldn't find the answer for by a quick Google search, right? Okay. Like there is no bad question in life, but now that we have Google, questions are just
so easy to go get information. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's really good stuff. I mean, I was looking through the Instagram, like preparing for this and kind of building out topics and stuff like that. And the information you share, I think is really good because it's like, some of it's like in the weed stuff that you don't know until like you're going through it. So to get that before you go through, it's like invaluable, right? Until you run face first into the brick wall, you can just skirt around it. That's good stuff. Well, guys, go check out DIY_landlord on Instagram, connect with David. And David, it was awesome having you on the show, man. Thanks for coming and providing some value.
All right. Thanks, Blake. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Of course, man. All right. And we're out of here. Hey, thanks for listening. If you like the show, if you found value in it, please go to iTunes and leave a rating and review. And if you want to check out more on your multifamily journey, go to multifamilyjourney.com where you can get free resources to start your journey and figure out your path. That's multifamilyjourney.com. But more importantly, go take action today towards your financial future. See you next time.